Okay, back at it. So I just talked about the pairing with the Toffee Tastic cookie. Same cookie, different bourbon. So this is going to change your experience. So again, the blue corn bourbon, that's this one right here. Oh look, it matches my shirt. Okay. And actually, I just had the Better Days in that, and so I kind of want to rinse it out since I'm using the same exact Glencairn, the same glass. So I'm just going to put a little bit in there and give it a good rinse. You always want to rinse with your next bourbon if you're not going to be washing and drying your Glencairn in between each tasting, or if you don't have a lineup of Glencairns to do tasting. It's just easier just to rinse it out with your next taste or sample. Okay, never use water. I haven't talked about that yet, but I will eventually. Okay, so I rinse it out, putting the blue corn bourbon in there. Now, comparing the Better Days to the blue corn, the Better Days is much more of a extrovert. So it has so much going on, right? It's like the firstborn child that plays every varsity sport and gets all A's in every academic class, all that. Now, the Rhapsody Blue Corn Bourbon is much more of that introvert child. So this is the one that just sits at home and does homework all the time and reads tons and tons and tons of books, right? So, so here, this is a high rye bourbon. I've already talked about both those bourbons in other videos. So you're gonna get on the nose that rye bold character right up front. It's like boom. Okay, and then the sweetness of the blue corn comes around, and then the wood sugar comes through as butterscotch. Now, okay, tipping it to the side. This is the one on the side that smells more like Cracker Jacks to me. So there's the cornfield again, but it's right before harvest. Like a buttered caramel corn. And then like a corn on the cob, still on the husk, on the grill. There's like a roasted character. And then that rye comes through much more clovey and nutty. A little bit of that campfire again. And then totally like toffee butterscotch. Maybe a little bit of molasses on the very bottom. Okay, so that's the nosing. Now the flavor, I don't have to acclimate since I've just started with the Better Days, so I can just go right into tasting. Now, I still had some flavor of the Better Days and the cookie. And so there was already a drastic change from this just because I had that on my palate already. So the thing about the Rhapsody Blue Corn, it's not as complex as the Better Days. It's much more simple, and it's just the two grains kind of going back and forth with one another. And so they contrast each other, that sweet, nutty butteriness of the blue corn, and it's contrasted by that spicy rye. And so it's beautiful because it's very simplistic, and it's like sitting at home and in front of a fireplace. You're sitting in a room that has oak wood floors, like floor to ceiling books, like older books that smell so good, and maybe a little hint of like sitting in a leather chair. So that's why I call this one the introvert. That's the character that I get, the personality. Okay. And then taste. Okay. I was expecting this to go a little bit more spicier, but it didn't. It went sweeter. So this tends to be spicier just because it's a high rye, and the cookie sweetness, and then the bourbon. Wow, I was not expecting that. It's been a while since I've actually tasted these, like months. So, yum, this is fun. That is so interesting. It totally, this, you know, by itself is really bold and robust in its flavor profile. And wow, it totally softened and is much more fluffy. Now, the cookie is much richer. The flavor profiles feel like heavier and a little bit more condensed, but more rich. Okay. Now, it's a little bit, the spiciness is coming out a little bit, but it is totally like blending well with this cookie. Completely different experience. Yeah. Now that's getting spicy again. Okay, so that was the pairing with the blue corn and the trefoil. And I will move on to the third whiskey that I paired, and just right after this. So enjoy.